Overwashing your oily scalp will only make it worse because the more you wash it, the more oil your scalp is going to produce to compensate for the dryness due to washes. So, instead of trying to get rid of it, तुम्हें अपना oil production balance करके उसे properly manage करना होगा. And these two things will help you do just that. You see, I've had long hair for over 7 years now and I've gone through this exact overwashing phase. Washing more, scrubbing harder and using those oil control shampoos. पर किसी चीज ने मेरे लिए properly काम नहीं किया until I understood the importance of this oil for hair and scalp health, but more importantly, how to manage it properly. But the reason it took me so long to understand things is because most online advice treats this oil like some sort of enemy that you just need to get rid of. वो तुम्हें dry shampoo और oil control products use करने को बोलेंगे. But the truth is, this oil is the most important thing for your hair and scalp health. But more importantly, no product in the market can replace the oil that your scalp produces. तो ये ऑयल खुद अपने आप में प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. प्रॉब्लम तब होती है जब ये स्कैल्प के ऊपर बिल्डअप हो जाता है, which happens because of a little mismanagement. But the good part is, it is surprisingly easy to fix. So in this video, I'll tell you exactly how to manage this oil so that it works for you instead of against you. Because the truth is, simply not washing doesn't fix oil production. Managing the oil correctly does. And these two simple tools will help you do exactly that. स्कैल्प मसाजर तुम्हारी मदद करेगा ऑयल प्रोडक्शन को बैलेंस करने में और वुडन कोम तुम्हारी मदद करेगा उस ऑयल को प्रॉपर्ली डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करने में so that it doesn't build up on your scalp. But before I tell you how to use them properly with a simple and easy to follow routine, let me tell you how overwashing makes the oily situation so much worse. Because if you don't understand and stop this, कोई स्कैल्प मसाजर, वुडन कोम या और कोई भी ऑयल कंट्रोल ट्रीटमेंट तुम्हारी मदद नहीं कर पाएगा. एंड बाय द वे, अगर वॉशेस कम करने के बाद भी तुम्हारा स्कैल्प ऑयली रहता है तो वो कोई कोइंसिडेंस नहीं है, वो तुम्हारा स्कैल्प है जिसे ओवर कॉम्पेंसेशन की आदत पड़ गई है. द मोर यू वॉश योर हेड टू क्लीन द ऑयल, द मोर ऑयली इट बिकम्स. ऐसा इसलिए है क्योंकि तुम एग्जैक्टली वही काम कर रहे हो जिसको काउंटर करने के लिए स्कैल्प ऑयल को प्रोड्यूस करता है, ड्राइनेस. Because your scalp gets oily every day, you assume that the problem is excess oil production. But that is not true because the real problem is dryness, जिसकी वजह से तुम्हारे scalp को oil produce करना पड़ता है, and the oil buildup, जिसकी वजह से तुम्हारा scalp हमेशा oily लगता है. जब मैं अपने overwashing phase में था, तब मुझे लगता था कि मेरा scalp genetically ही ज़्यादा oil produce करता है. Because no matter how clean I kept it, the oil kept coming back even faster. But once I understood what washing was actually doing to my scalp and the scalp barrier, everything about oil production started making sense. And here's the most important thing I understood. Most people believe that oil production is random or hormonal. And while hormones do matter, your daily habits influence oil production far more than you think. And here's why. तुम्हारा scalp तुम्हें परेशान करने के लिए oil produce नहीं करता. वो खुद को protect करने के लिए oil produce करता है. So when you wash too aggressively or too frequently, you strip your scalp's natural protective layer. And that is a huge problem. क्योंकि अब इस लेयर को रिपेयर करने के लिए तुम्हारा स्कैल्प और ज्यादा ऑयल प्रोड्यूस करेगा जो तुम्हारे स्वेट, प्रोडक्ट लेफ्टओवर्स और डेड स्किन के साथ मिक्स होकर एक बिल्डअप क्रिएट कर देता है दैट फील्स लाइक मोर ऑयल इवन दो इट इज जस्ट एक्चुअली अ लिटिल इम्बैलेंस. But then you make the biggest mistake of trying to get rid of it by washing it. Because when you respond by washing again, you restart the same stripping process जो in time तुम्हारे scalp को train कर देता है oil को over produce करने के लिए as a survival response. So you see, the real problem is not that your scalp is producing too much oil. The real problem is that this oil is not being distributed properly, so it builds up on your scalp. And here's the proof of that. अगर तुम्हारा स्कैल्प सच में टू मच ऑयल प्रोड्यूस कर रहा होता तो तुम्हारी पूरी हेयर लेंथ प्रॉपर्ली नरिश्ड होती, which is probably not the case since your scalp is oily and your hair ends are suffering from dryness, aren't they? So instead of trying to get rid of this oil, you need to distribute it properly while balancing the oil production without washing too much. And here's how to do exactly that. स्कैल्प मसाजर तुम्हारी मदद करेगा ऑयल प्रोडक्शन को बैलेंस करने में और बिल्डअप को ब्रेक डाउन करने में, while this wooden comb will help you distribute the oil properly throughout your hair length. Most people only touch their hair when they're washing it or styling it, so the oil keeps sitting at the scalp, building up day after day, which is the real problem. And the solution to this problem starts with these two simple tools. And I know everyone recommends oil control shampoos and deep cleansers when your scalp gets oily. But instead of stripping more oil, I think you should balance it and distribute it properly so that it works for you. Here's why. जब मैंने अपने हेयर वॉश फ्रीक्वेंसी को बढ़ाना बंद कर दिया और ऑलरेडी प्रोड्यूस्ड ऑयल को प्रॉपर्ली बैलेंस और डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करने पे फोकस किया, my scalp stopped getting oily almost instantly. And the reason was pretty simple. ऐसा इसलिए नहीं था कि मेरे स्कैल्प ने सडनली ऑयल प्रोडक्शन कम कर दिया। ऐसा इसलिए था क्योंकि मैं कॉन्स्टेंटली ऑयल बिल्डअप को ब्रेक डाउन कर रहा था और ऑयल को अपने बालों में प्रॉपर्ली डिस्ट्रीब्यूट कर रहा था यूजिंग अ स्कैल्प मसाजर एंड अ वुडन comb. And here's how they work. Scalp massager gently breaks down stubborn sebum buildup that sits around the follicles, जो automatically congestion कम कर देता है without over-drying your scalp, so it loosens excess oil evenly. But the wooden comb is the real cherry on top, because wood naturally absorbs excess oil from around the root area and distributes it properly from your roots to your hair ends. And this almost instantly reduces that shiny, flat-looking scalp while nourishing your dry ends at the same time. But the real magic happens when you combine both of them. क्योंकि अब तुम ऑयल को सिर्फ बैलेंस या डिस्ट्रीब्यूट नहीं कर रहे हो, तुम उसको बैलेंस करके डिस्ट्रीब्यूट कर रहे हो. So it really doesn't matter even if your scalp is producing too much oil, because you can just distribute it throughout your hair length. Which is surprisingly easy to do, by the way. All you need is a wooden comb and a scalp massager. But the real problem is, even the best tools will not work properly if you use them randomly. So here's a simple two-step routine to use these things properly. Most advice will tell you to buy a stronger shampoo or some sort of oil control formula. But instead of stripping away more oil, we are going to loosen it and distribute it properly throughout our hair length so that it works for us. And here's the two-step to do exactly that. And it starts with a scalp massager before you wash your hair. वॉश के पहले तुम्हें स्कैल्प मसाजर को 3 to 5 minutes यूज करना है. एंड इट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू रिमेंबर दैट द गोल इज नॉट प्रेशर, इट इज द मूवमेंट. बिकॉज दिस जेंटल मूवमेंट breaks down hardened sebum that shampoo alone struggles to remove, which means अब जब तुम वॉश करोगे तो तुम्हारा शैम्पू एक्चुअली बिल्डअप को क्लीन कर रहा होगा इंस्टेड ऑफ फाइटिंग इट, विच इज बाय द वे मोर इंपॉर्टेंट देन यू थिंक. जब तुम बिल्डअप को लूसन करने के बाद वॉश करोगे तो तुम्हारा शैम्पू ज्यादा इफेक्टिवली काम करेगा, विच मीन्स यू वोंट नीड टू वॉश अगेन एज क्विकली. एंड दिस चेंजेस एवरीथिंग. Because when you don't need to wash your scalp as quickly, your scalp doesn't go into oil overproduction mode. But more importantly, we are now set up for step 2, that is wooden comb. Now that buildup isn't sitting on your scalp stubbornly, the next problem is oil pooling at the roots, and that is exactly where a wooden comb will help you the most. क्योंकि जब तुम रूट से लेके एंड्स तक comb करते हो, you redistribute natural oils evenly, so you prevent greasy roots and dry ends at the same time. But it also does a lot more than that. जब तुम ऑयल को evenly spread कर दोगे, your scalp will not feel overloaded, which greatly reduces the urge to wash prematurely. And that is the most important part. क्योंकि जब तुम prematurely wash करना छोड़ दोगे, तुम्हारे scalp को सिग्नल मिल जाएगा that it doesn't need to overproduce oil any longer, which is the real goal here. So in turn, तुम्हें बस दिन में multiple times scalp massager को use करना है for the movement, not for the pressure, और उसको combine करना है wooden comb के साथ. And when you combine breaking the buildup and distributing it properly, you are no longer reacting to oil, you are managing it properly and as a result, controlling it. And once you start controlling this oil, instead of fighting it, तुम्हारा scalp automatically खुद को balance कर लेगा without any oil control treatments. So do this consistently and your scalp won't need daily washing anymore. And before I say I love you, here are a few things that can make your scalp produce too much oil. And also, I've made another video in which I've covered very simple solutions to other major hair problems. उस वीडियो को मैं pinned comment में लिंक कर दूंगा. And always remember, I love you. Thank you for everything.